Thank you for being here, and welcome to the Web We Want. So I'll introduce myself a little bit. I am Paul, and I organize events and speak at conferences, and I enjoy the web community and the web itself. And that is basically the reason why they asked me to stand here and talk to you, even though a lot of people are like me, but I just like talking and I like standing on stage, so maybe that's the reason. One of the things I organize is called NL805. I've been doing that for a couple of years, and I started doing that because I wanted to give back to the community and give back to the web. And that's basically what the Web We Want is about as well. Because we want to invite people to share their thoughts about what the web can become. So what we want to know is what features you all believe are missing from the web platform, or developing tools, or in browsers in general. And so the Web We Want, we've been collecting what we call wants from the community. And today we've invited 4 people to pitch us why we should solve the problems that they've presented. But before we get into that, I will give you a brief overview about how these sessions will work. First off, I will be joined here on stage by the judging panel today. So give a warm applause to all of them. I have a clicker in my hand. I'm not doing anything with it, but I'm glad someone else is doing something with it. I'll just put it down here. So we have Ali, who's a software engineer at Dev, Jory, who's open source and open standards advocate, sorry. And we have Xing, who's developer advocate at Nexmo. Thank you very much for being here, and also for the talks that you've given and are going to give the coming hours. Thanks. So after each of our pitches today, the judges will provide some feedback, and they may also ask some follow-up questions if they have any. And once we heard all of the pitches, our judging panel will confer and then pick the one that they'd most like to see addressed. And while they are talking to each other, you are able to vote on the talk or the idea that you enjoyed the best and you think has to be solved. And both of the winners that come from from both the judges and the community, they will win a prize, and it will be a €250 Amazon gift card. So that's nice. I wish I would submit something now. So one quick clarification, the same pitch cannot win both prizes. So if the judges pick one and the community pick the same, then it will be the second one that the community picked that will win the prize. And if you want to know the full rules, just tweet at MSHDev or find Stephanie, who will introduce herself later after the session. So let's get started. First off, we have Alistair Coote, who is a mobile developer at New York Times. So give a warm applause for Alistair. I'll just go here.
Hi. There we go. Okay, my suggestion is to extend media query support in the source elements to support video tags, which is a complete word salad. So let me give a little bit of context in what I actually mean by that. When I'm saying extending support, what I'm talking about is extending what currently exists in the picture tag. So you can create a picture tag using source tags inside, and you'll see that media attribute there is exactly the same as you'd be using in CSS. And it allows you to switch out which image is being displayed depending on the size of the viewport. So with code like that, it would look a lot like this. So I'm on a mobile viewport, I'm going to see one image. I'm on desktop, I'm going to see another. Now, you might think, well, why would I not just use 2 image tags and use a media query in my CSS? I'm more used to using media queries there. One reason, aside from it being semantically incorrect, because we now have 2 images there, is that the browser will also download both of those images. Because the picture media query support is in the HTML itself, it means that the browser will know that the browser will be able to detect which one it needs to download. So, presumably, the video tag has a source tag in it. So when I first started looking at this, I thought, well, I can just use this, right? I can just add media to my videos and have 2 different ones. And it turns out that doesn't work. And I wasn't there when all of this was drawn up, and some people in the room probably were, so hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn. But I imagine the reason that this wasn't added is because at the time, video tags, well, pages was designed around videos rather than videos being a design element on a page. That is less the case these days, since browsers now support this, which allows you to play a video inline and muted as part of your overall page design. So it wasn't that long ago that on iOS you couldn't play a video inline at all. It would always go full screen. So the idea of applying these media query restrictions to the video didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But nowadays we can use a video as part of a page design. So for an example, at the Times, we created this article. One of the Democratic candidates, Elizabeth Warren, is famous for having huge lines of people who want to take a selfie with her. And we thought it'd be kind of nice to show this video at the top. We've taken to calling them cinegraphs, but the idea is it's a short, muted, looping video. And obviously, as you can see, it fits in with the design overall. And for mobile, we have a very different design. We wanted it to be in a completely different proportion. So without the support of the browsers doing this natively, we have to use JavaScript. So when the page first loads, there's a black box. Then once all the other stuff has come along with the page and the JavaScript is finally initialized, then we throw in this video, which is okay. But it could be better. And it feels like all the elements are there. The source tag is already there. The attribute is already there. So hopefully all we'd need to do is just rig it up. And as we learned actually yesterday, I was really interested in the accessibility talks about high contrast mode and your dark mode and all that kind of stuff. It would all play in the same way, right? So if someone has high contrast mode enabled or dark mode enabled, you could imagine you might want to serve a different video to them. And this would give us the ability to be able to do that. So let's do that. And that's it.
Beyonce. Works? Okay. Thank you so much for your talk. It was very well thought through. I think it's a big plus that you thought of what was already existed. And your use case, it feels very reasonable. I think there are performance benefits to it as well. So that's
how it'll inline, and also how it will inline with other work that's currently in consideration. So I like it.
Totally agree. I think that the idea is great, and then you also gave the argument for why it's important well as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a good idea. I like it because I work a lot with WebRTC, and I also can think of some things that we want to do with that. So next up, we have Hidde de Vries. I've met Hidde 10 years ago at Frontiers. We have a lot of after parties that we went together, so I'm not going to overshare. Hidde is an accessibility person at the W3C, and he has some ideas about accessibility, of course. So give it up for Hidde.
Thank you. Let me just see if I can go back. Yeah. So I think we should get browsers to fix some accessibility problems automatically. And that is because there's so much accessibility outreach out there. Like there's a lot of people blogging and doing videos and doing workshops about how to make sites accessible. But we're never going to reach every single person on the world, every site owner. So we have to find ways that can still mitigate accessibility issues for people that need that. And the good news is we can actually detect some accessibility issues automatically. There is a project in the W3C, a community group that is called ACT Rules, and that is focused on getting accessibility standards and turning them into rules that can be used by accessibility checkers. So it stands for accessibility conformance testing, and these are all different tools that will take a page and then check the accessibility of that page and give you a report of what's wrong. They only find maybe 20 to 30% of accessibility issues, but it's still quite a bit. So we can find accessibility issues automatically, which made me think maybe we can also fix some accessibility issues automatically. Now, I have to be honest, we can only do a very small subset of accessibility issues. Like I said, it's about 20 to 30%. And then the ones we can automatically fix, that's an even smaller subset. But it might be still worth trying. So I have 4 different ones for you today. And 2 of them actually exist in some browsers. One of them I learned only yesterday in Melanie's amazing talk that also exists. So there's one that doesn't exist yet. I'm going to do all 4 still to get you in the mood. So force readability is something we can do. What if you're on a website and it has a lot of text, like really wide lines of text with lots of words on them. The font is really light and it's like gray on gray. It's hard to read, and you could press a button that says force readability and it would just put it into something that is readable. And maybe lets you take into account maybe your favorite font or dark mode if you want that. That would be pretty cool, I think. But it exists. It is reader mode and it is in some different browsers. It would be cool to have it in all browsers. Something else that I would love to see in all browsers is to always allow zoom. Because some users with visual impairments, they need to zoom in the page in order to use it. And there is a viewport meta tag that you can use to turn off zooming. And what that does for those users is it makes it inaccessible because they can no longer read the text that they're supposed to read. So my proposal would be to have a checkbox where you can say always allow zoom, and it would just not do the thing. It would ignore that user scalable equals no. I have a different font on my slides there. Always allow zoom would do that, and it's something that I think iOS has been doing for a couple of years already. It ignores this rule for accessibility reasons, so that's cool. I would love all browsers to take up on that idea. Another one I think that we could fix automatically is to enforce contrast, because a lot of different users will have problem reading text on the web. An example is if you have white text on a light photo, it's usually really hard to read, and it sometimes happens just because the designer designed it with a dark photo, and then someone who is on content thought that a lighter photo would fit well, didn't change the text color, and you get these issues. So the reason, or the way you could fix this automatically is by just drawing a background just behind it that is in a color that contrasts a lot with the text. So if it's white, you make it black. Now that's something apparently Edge does, as Melanie said yesterday, which I think is really cool, and I would love all browsers to take on that as well. The last one is to force focus indication, and that is something that people use if they use the web without a mouse. So they use, for example, a keyboard to browse around a web page. So here's a web page that has 3 links on it, and this is a video of me trying to get through the web page. So I'm on the first link, and I'm going to the second link, and I'm going to the third link. And you don't see anything happening. It's not because the video is broken, but it's because they've turned off the focus styles with outline none in CSS. So this is what that would look like with the force focus indication feature that I imagine would work. So you'd have like a 10-pixel border that the browser just forces upon the website, so that someone who needs to see where their links are, they are able to do that, and they can browse through the links without depending on the developer or designer of the web page. So I think there's 4 things that we could do: zoomability, readability, contrast, and focus styles. That we could fix automatically, and I would love browsers to do that.
Thank you for that. I'm all for it because you have a focus on giving the user more choice. I think that's always a plus. And I love that you mention things that one browser does that the other browsers don't do in sort of I support the guilt trip.
Totally agree. I think this seems doable. You scoped it well, and it seems like it would have a huge impact. So thank you.
I like that it also helps to surface accessibility best practices to web developers, which is still something that we're overcoming. I think we've got a lot of work to do to teach people about how to design for accessibility, and this would be something that helps catch fire there.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. I also always enjoy windmills and other Dutch references in slides. So next up, we have someone calling in from the Ukraine. We won't have video, but he will be on audio, I hope, which is Artem Denysov. He's a software engineer at EPAM. So is Artem around here? I see him.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Check. Is okay?
Yes, we hear everything.
Cool. Let's start. So my name is Artem Denysov, and I'm going to tell you about impact of browser extensions on web performance. Browser extensions became really handy tools for users and developers for different platforms and across different browsers. How do developers measure their site performance? Do they have extensions turned on? Usually they use incognito mode and DevTools. They're opening performance tab and go do their analysis stuff, or they're using web page test or Lighthouse. Do users? I've done some experiment analyzing my client a while ago and having all my setup without any incognito mode, and discovered that Grammarly adds some tasks for main thread, additional tasks, and it was kind of inspiration for building a tool called XHouse. It's open source. You can find it on GitHub. So we've analyzed page, running it using Puppeteer and measuring different metrics using Lighthouse. That's why it's called XHouse. So we're running the page, and then we run it again with installed extension and see the difference. Generating this kind of report with metrics like time to interactive and first input delay, also showing additional long tasks. We've done some state of Chrome Web Store extensions, and most of them are good, but 3 of them showing that we have not so really good performance from them, and each of them has 10 plus million users, so it's really affecting them. After release, we got really positive feedback from Google developers and from extension developers. What we proposed that extend Chrome Web Store with functionality for badging extension or adding some check marks if extension has performance impact on users, and we'll be more than happy to talk with developers and help them share information we have to do that. I've been talking about Chrome, but we have not only Chrome, we have Firefox, and we've done some investigation in this area too, using Puppeteer Firefox and WebExt package from Mozilla to install add-ons for Firefox. We presented that for Firefox add-ons team and got positive feedback about the idea to have Firefox analysis, but due to limited performance API, so it will be super helpful to have long tasks API or JavaScript self-profiling API to do that, to do this performance analysis. So to make web faster, we as developers, extension developers, should analyze web extensions performance before publishing them to store, and we should add performance check for Chrome Web Store, improve performance API for Firefox to add performance check to Firefox Web Store, and improve XHouse with some issues for make them more stable, analyze extensions, and different browsers. You can find related issues and discussions on the links, and thank you for listening, and special thanks for Trio for supporting development of the tool. And you can ping me on Twitter and ask any questions or whatever. Thank you for listening, and thank you for organizers for letting me to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in all the way from Ukraine. And I think you've highlighted a very important point that extensions, a lot of people have them installed, but you don't really think about their performance impact. So thank you very much for highlighting that.
I have totally seen the same issue with Grammarly when I run Lighthouse tests. So definitely a big issue, and I think this would be a really cool idea.
I love that you're already collaborating with people from the browser vendors to talk about the applicability and the possibilities here. I think it's a very real problem, and thanks for bringing it to our attention. It's awesome.
I don't think he could hear us. I don't know. I didn't really register, but that's okay. We will send everything. Yes, it felt good. Yeah, and we'll send any feedback towards him as well. So, and then we have our final talk by Maxim Tsoy. He is a software engineer here in Amsterdam at Surfly, and he's also organizer of the WebCore meetup. So give it up for Maxim.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about debugger save points proposal today. My name is Max. I'm working for Surfly. I also organize this WebCore meetup. Please check it out. It's focused on core web technologies. And straight to the point. So we're developing a sandboxing proxy. So we're regenerating the JavaScript code on the fly and stuff on top of the original app. And from time to time, we get bug reports when certain JavaScript doesn't work as expected after the transformation. So we have to debug it. And it can be tricky because the real code looks more like this. And in our case, the code on the left is a third-party code which we don't know what it's doing and we don't have control over it. So what we normally do is just trace over these two versions of the code, and hopefully we get to the point where the code flow diverges. And I spend a lot of time in DevTools. It can be tricky sometimes. So let me just share a few problems that I face. Problem one. When you're investigating a bug, usually you know about some side effect. So you put a breakpoint somewhere around that side effect and then try to figure out backwards like what the data flow is, how did we end up there. You put another breakpoint in the earlier stage, reload the page, start over. Similar thing happens if you're debugging an asynchronous framework, for example, React or Vue, when changes are applied way after the actual change has happened. So that also can be really tricky to figure out. Problem two is race conditions. So if you have a race condition, just by the nature of race conditions, you're forced to rerun your code over and over to get to the erroneous state. And this can take a few iterations. Problem three is eval. So eval is still widely used in front-end frameworks, and it's not going anywhere soon. It can be especially tricky to debug the evaluated code because before it's actually evaluated, it's not a code. You can't even put a debugger in it, the breakpoint. And even when you do, after you reload the page, the breakpoints might be lost. Hopefully you can inject a debugger statement in there, but it's not always easy. And to make it even worse, in Firefox, since version 67, it's not even possible to step over the evaluated code. I believe it's going to be fixed soon, but so far it's a big problem. And finally, sometimes it can be just very tricky to reproduce a bug. So imagine a multi-step form where you, even before you get to the stage where you want to reproduce you have to enter all these fields, like with valid data. It can take a lot of time, especially if there is a race condition or something. So all these problems could be tackled differently, but they have one thing in common, right? So they force you to rerun your code over and over again, which is complete waste of time and it's nothing but frustration, really. So my suggestion would be to introduce some kind of save points in DevTools, so that I'm imagining if you're post in the debugger, you can dump all your current state with all breakpoints, JavaScript state, everything into a file, so that you can come back to that point and then start over from that point in time. I'm not a browser developer, like I don't know if it's easy or not, but I anticipate problems like in service workers, browser extensions, you name it. But Harold pointed me yesterday to this web replay project in Firefox, which sounds like a superset of this, a much more complicated superset. So I'm thinking maybe we could have this with immediate benefit first, because even if it covers like some of the cases, it would be really helpful for me and I'm sure for many other web developers out there. And with this, I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your talk. I think you really highlighted something that is an industry, those of us who work on the web can relate very much to. And yeah, you made very compelling points, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I've worked a lot with the Redux and Elm dev tools, and this sounds like it would be similar to that, but for all of JavaScript, and I think that that would be super, super helpful, because working with those is super, super nice, so I like this idea a lot.
Definitely +1 to HJ and Ali here. I think, you know, the ergonomics here is something we could solve. It seems like it is a common problem that all developers run into, and I think would help a lot of folks. So,
thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I would love something like that. I keep struggling with it. So anyway, what's happening now is I'm going to click on something. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so it's time for the judges to confer. They are going to quietly discuss with each other what they think is the best idea. And in the meantime, you can all go to a page, which I hope will be the next slide. My clicker is, of course, not working. Is there a next slide? Anyway, there will be a QR code up anytime soon, I hope. No. Well, while they're trying to figure that out, I'll let the judges confer. You can go to that page, and I will try to figure out what's going on. But you can go to that page and just vote on your topic. There it is. I could also I knew the URL. I could just say that as well. But anyway, I saw a little nod towards me, so I guess the jury has conferred and has found a winner. Yes. Does anyone of you want to announce the winner?
Okay, I have the mic. So broadly, our sort of rubric was feasibility and impact. So we thought that the second one, on forcing accessibility on the browser, that was our pick.
Yeah, accessibility. I want to ask Hidde to come on stage to just quickly give a bow or something. Big applause to Hidde. The organizers will contact you with the prize and everything, but in the meantime, it was an amazing idea, and I think it will help a lot of people, and the developers don't need to do anything for it, which I am very happy about. Well, not for these things then, if it's fixed in the browser. So yeah, great, thanks. And now I want to ask Stephanie on stage to announce the prize for the community winner. Applause.
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I work on the Microsoft Edge team, and I'm one of the organizers for the Web We Want. And I'm going to let you know who your community winner is. The accessibility one was the first one for the community, so we're going to go to the second one, which was the saving and loading the debugger state. Congratulations. I will follow up with you after the event for your prize. And then I just want to say in general, like if any of you are thinking, oh, I have something that I want to share with browser vendors, this is not the only event we run, so feel free to go to thewebwewant.fyi and share your want for the web also. And I'll hand it back over to Paul now.
That was all I wanted to say as well. Anyway, thank you all for being here and watching and voting. And I hope you have a great time. And we will be back here at 1:45, 1:50-ish for more things, which I kind of forgot about. Sorry. But it will be announced as well. So yeah, have some food or drinks or stay here. Thank you.